Hello pilots and pilotesses, welcome back to another Flight Sim 008 video, back in P3D. Now I had a lot of fun creating the last video where we took our 737-800 down to Gatwick, but I wanted to start something new. I wanted to start fresh and do something different with this channel, something that differentiates this channel from all of the other great YouTube Flight Sim channels out there. And I still wanted to incorporate the airline that I fly for, the virtual airline, being Fly UK. So I came up with an idea. Now, I mentioned in the last video that I've been with Fly UK for about 1.5 years now, and I had a great time working up the ranks, trying out all the different aircrafts in our fleet, and doing the European routes, the domestic routes, and then eventually the long-haul international routes. And I kind of wanted to get back to that. So, for this series, what I thought we would do is start back from square one. A Class E, not to be confused with Classy, but we are as well, a Class E first officer, a fresh recruit, just got our wings, and we just signed our contract with Fly UK. Now, we'll gloss over the whole type rating thing because, hey, let's face it, it's a sim, but we just got word from management, and they have our first mission for us. Despite my protests, they've stuck us on the Dash 8-400. Now, don't get me wrong, I love this airplane. I picked it up last November, and it has been a handful ever since. I've come to grips with it where, you know, I can make it do kind of what I want it to do, but it's still been a handful. It's a quirky aircraft. Great to fly, though. The guys at Majestic have done a wonderful job with this aircraft. That being said, I've never actually done a full flight from the right-hand seat of this aircraft before, so that's going to definitely be interesting. Which brings us to our location. We're in Jersey, just off the coast of France, and in the southwest of the English Channel. And our mission is Flight 817, operating up to Leeds, Bradford. I wanted to fly back to Leeds because I kind of want to make it our home base for a little while we progress through First Officer, and then finally Captain on this thing, and then maybe work our way up to the jets. We'll see how far we can take this. But Leeds Bradford is a perfect little airport, as I mentioned in the last video, for our mission, to gain some experience, to gain some hours, and really give this whole career thing a shot. So while the flight crew from the previous leg of the journey on this aircraft gets all their paperwork sorted out in the flight deck over there, let's have a look at our charts and the weather for our first ever commercial flight for Fly UK. Now it's late afternoon in the UK, and I kind of want to get in before sunset, so let's start with the flight dispatch page and get on our way. Alright, our flight number is 817, radio call sign Skyways 81 Hotel. Now, again, we're not on VATSIM this time. Maybe in the future we'll look at that. For the time being, recording for me, flying this aircraft, which as I mentioned is a bit of a handful, especially from the right seat, which I haven't done before. We'll leave it offline, and we'll look at that maybe in a future video. The division, it's a scheduled domestic flight, UK to the UK. Equipment, Dash 8-400, which checks out. Our estimated flight time is about 1 hour and 15 minutes today, 318 nautical miles, and the aircraft will be a Lima Charlie Juliet. Let's have a look at the weather in Jersey. We're looking at partly cloudy, temperature of 15, so another nice fall, Canadian fall day, if you will. Surface winds are out of the southwest, 17 knots, bit breezy, but I think we can handle it. QNH is 1008. So over here on the parking chart, we're on the north side, stand number 5. We'll try to push back with the nose left, head down Alpha, and depart runway 26. And if we go over here to our overview chart, up Alpha all the way to the end, to the holding point over here, and depart off runway 26. Now as for the departure, the first waypoint in our flight plan is Ortac. So with the airport being down here, it's going to be a straight departure, and you can see there's a warning here on the departure, no turns below 777 QNH, so we'll definitely have to keep that in mind. Then it's going to be a right turn to the Alderney NDB. From there, we head to Ortac, and then en route as filed. Speaking of as filed, I always gloss over this, I don't know why. Here's a little visualization of our flight plan. So we're starting off down here in Jersey, then we're going to cross the English Channel, past just west of London, further north past Manchester to the east this time, and then down over into Leeds, Bradford. Fly UK does a great job on the layout of this overview tab, and I should use it a little bit more than I actually do. welcome to the flight deck of the Bombardier Q400. Now the previous flight crew has left the aircraft in a turnaround state, so we don't have to go through all of the cold and dark procedures today. We're going to be actually operating the next leg of this flight. Now there's just a couple of things we have to do before we get the passengers on board. The first thing is we can start putting in our route. And as I said, I'll be operating this flight from the right seat, which is a first for me, so things are a little bit backwards, so bear with me if we're a little bit slow here. So on to our route. Flight plan, we can start off with our departure, Echo Golf Juliet Juliet, enter, and we can accept that. Then we're headed to ORTAC, Oscar Romeo Tango Alpha Charlie, enter. Then we're jumping on the Lima 980 to OCK, then the Quebec 3 to Hamel, and from there, jumping on the Tango 420 over to Tango November Tango, then November 57 over to Denby, and the final waypoint is Lima Bravo Alpha, which I happen to know is an NDB right over the field. Then we can enter our arrival airport, Echo Golf November Mike, and that's our flight plan entered. And go ahead and load up, actually I loaded up the fuel already. So we've got our basic weight, and we are carrying 69 passengers today. Nope, I want back 69. Enter. Cargo is only 800 pounds. It's 800 kilos rather. Our fuel on board is 1075 in each tank. And our alternate fuel, by the way, our alternate today, if anything goes horribly, horribly wrong, which I'm not promising it won't, is Manchester. And our diversion fuel is 1164. Great. All of that is now in. Go ahead and turn on the no smoking signs. We'll turn on the position lights. We'll leave the rest off. Logo light, maybe we'll need it on landing. Not so much yet. Go ahead and turn the bleeds to min. Let's see. The condition levers are on fuel cutoff. We are on Unicom, even though we're not online. We're squawking 2000. We can go ahead and check our flight plan. So I'll go over to the systems page, and like so, and format. There we go. We'll pull that up. We'll pull this up. We'll go through the flight plan. That all looks correct. Cross the English Channel, up northbound in a general northbounderly kind of direction. Looks good to me. This is why I'm not a real pilot, folks. Move out the range a little bit. Do we see... There's LBA and EGNM. We'll program in the arrival when we're in the air. We don't have to worry about that right now. It's a long enough flight, especially in the dash, that we can get everything set up for our top of descent and all that good stuff when we're in the air. Alright, so I've gone ahead and I've done a couple of more things. First and foremost, remembered and plugged in our QNH. We still have that MDA set for 780 just to make sure that we don't make that turn before then. We have an altitude restriction of 5,000 set in. Move the HSI over to the right-hand side since we'll be the pilot flying. We'll turn on the yaw damper, and we will select LNAV and pitch hold for our initial climb out. We'll set 15 degrees. You can do that with this little scroll wheel here that adjusts your pitch. We'll put that on the 15 degree. That'll be our initial pitch, and from there we can tweak it for the climb out. Finally, I've gone ahead, I've looked up the tables, and we've entered, based on our current weight, our V-speeds. They're a little high. We're a little bit heavy today. not to worry, we've got plenty of runway. So V1 130, VR, and V2 is 132. I don't like to use the open and V fry or whatever it's called. I usually end up using those for V approach speed and VREF. I know that's not technically correct. Maybe it is for some SOPs. I'm not quite sure. I like to just keep it a little bit cleaner, just keep these up here, and I manage the speed a little bit more manually based on pitch on the climb out. So I think we're ready to get our passengers on board. So we'll let them start boarding, and we'll keep our flows going here and talk to each other a little bit closer to pushback. Well, the passengers are on board, so we can get this show on the road. Let's start by powering up the APU. And in the meantime, we can turn on the fasten seatbelt signs, make sure the bleeds are on min. We can turn on the recirc fan just for the passengers' comfort. We'll get that red beacon going. Close up the doors. That was my keyboard, by the way. We'll watch for the green closed and secure message. We can switch this back over to nav. There we go. We'll get the weather radar on standby. GPU, or APU rather, should be online momentarily. I didn't hit the start switch, did I? It powered, it did its self-check, and then I totally forgot to start the APU. Rookie mistake. Rookie mistake. What else? Everything else here is done. We're just waiting on the APU to clear out the GPU. There we go. We turn the gen on. We can leave the... Actually, we'll turn on the bleed air. Whoa! I might have to adjust the sound level on that. We can go ahead and get rid of the GPU. Put this back to nav. Disconnect the nose steering. And we'll get GSX to push us back.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of our airline, we would like to welcome you on board of our Dash 8 Q400. Are located in front, 2 at the wings and 2 at the back. They are marked with the exit sign. Illuminated escape path markings on the floor lead to these exits. Each seat is equipped with the safety belts. To fasten the seat belt, fit the 2 ends together. Tighten it by pulling the loose end. To unfasten the seat belt, lift the upper part of the buckle. Your life vest is located under your seat and is sealed in a plastic bag.
So, we can turn the pedostatics on, like so. We can ditch the APU, like so. And that is all correct. Boot air goes to isolate. Let's go with that. And we will turn on the nose wheel steering so that we may steer the aircraft. And T-skid can go on. And we can bring the condition levers to max. Bring the flaps down to 5. Turn on the fuel pumps. Those are over here. And we will get auto feather. Just have to move forward a little bit. Auto feather to arm, just in case something goes horribly wrong. So, taxi light can come on. The only warning light we have is the parking brakes, completely normal. We will disengage that, add a skosh of power, and steer the aircraft in a this-early direction. So we're heading up Alpha all the way to the end. And we'll take 2-6 from the second to last intersection. They're very close together at the very end. Anyways, nice little wing view. And, oh, a little too much power. This aircraft can get away from you on the ground. So you definitely have to watch for that. Complete this left-hand turn here. I can tell right away this is going to be a handful from the right-hand seat. We will persevere. The runway alignment might be a little bit off, so you'll have to pardon me for that. Late afternoon. I think we made good time. It's 16:46 Zulu, and we're heading down to the runway. Pretty much set for departure. Still a couple of things we have to do, like take that gust lock off, but we have no warning lights, and life is good. You know, I was taxiing along here on Alpha, just about ready to get lined up for the runway, and I realized I hadn't actually programmed the FMS for our departure. So, thanks for that, Captain. But now that's in, we're good, everything looks good, no discontinuities. Like I said, I'm really uncomfortable on the right-hand side. I mean, this is as much fun as it is for me, as I'm sure you guys watching and making fun of all the mistakes I'm making. Just because I am not comfortable on the right side. I'm not comfortable in this aircraft to begin with, but flying on the right side, recording at the same time, this is all very, very new to me. But let's press on. Runway's identified. Transponder can go to on. There we go. Overshot the lineup. Quite alright. There we go. What did I say last video about Fly UK management and my tires? Oh well. Alright, so heading out over the water. Everything is good-ish, hopefully. I have no idea. Bleeds are on min. Blah, blah, blah. Probably forgot the bus tie. I don't think that matters. We're running out of runway to line up. Let's go. Okay, so straight away, just having the center line off to the left like that, so disconcerting. Plus the aircraft just wants to go left. Come on, let's get back over. Almost at V1. V1, rotate. And we're up. Okay. Let's get the gear up. Remember, we were looking for that 777. A little bit of a wind there on the departure. No turns before that point. So even if we get there, there's that yellow line coming up. We can go ahead and begin our right turn. This is really a handful. Let's try to trim it out a little bit. Need a little bit of down trim. Doing alright on the climb. Still at 1500. I think in the FMS I'm going to have to go to... Oh, there we go. We picked it up. Okay, so now we're going to intercept Alderney NDB. I'm probably pronouncing that wrong. No climbs above 5,000, so we'll just pitch over just a little bit more. There we go. There's Jersey Island. Again, need to look where I'm going. I'm going to go ahead and stick the autopilot on just a little early. Let it sort itself out. And let's see, speed is 157. We can nose it down just a skosh. Start to speed up a little bit. Bring in the flaps. And we'll get the props back to 900. Save the company a little bit of gas. So we're coming up on 4 for 5. Speed's coming up. We do have to worry about rudder trim. So Bombardier, that's our 1,000 to go altitude ding. Bombardier designed this aircraft with 2 massive props connected to 2 massive engines spinning in the same direction. So anybody who's familiar with physics will know that if you get 1 or even 2 massive wheels on a wing, on a big flat wing, and they're both spinning in the right direction, in the same direction rather, then the aircraft is going to want to go in the opposite direction. So you need a whack of right rudder and a whack of right aileron just to keep it level. And in the air, you have to trim it out. Basically, we're looking for these 3 vector lines to kind of line up with each other. So I'm going to add a little bit of right rudder trim, and we are starting to get a little bit close to that barber pole, indicating the overspeed there. So see, with a little bit of right rudder, you can kind of get these 3 to line up a little bit better, and that basically means the aircraft is tracking straight, and it's flying not off canter or off center, which not only improves passenger comfort and fuel economy, but looks better going through the sky too. So we're just coming up to the intercept for, I believe that's the Alderney, or maybe that's even Ortac. Let's zoom out just a skosh. I'll get rid of TrackIR in a second, because, yeah. So there's the Alderney VOR, and we're on our right turn to intercept that in a second. We're level at 5, which is what the departure SID indicated, but I think we're going to go ahead and climb a little bit further now. So we'll dial in our cruise altitude. You know what? I actually forgot our cruise altitude. I'll go check that quickly on the Fly UK dispatch page. We'll bug it up to let's make it 18 for now, and in the climb we'll adjust it. So 18, and we want to go IAS mode. Basically, keep us at a constant speed in the climb, and we'll bug that down to about 180 for the climb. So I'll put in a little bit more power, nice and gently, because every time you adjust the power on this thing, well, now we're in a turn, so it doesn't really count, but every time you adjust the power, you also have to adjust your trim, because it kind of gets out of whack. So you're trimming for a power setting, and then every time you touch that power dial, you kind of have to re-trim it. So the all-important alt cell, before I forget, before we go shooting through whatever altitude I set. So I'm going to check on the altitude for our cruise, and we're going to climb up to our cruise altitude, and then we'll begin program the FMC for our descent. Very short flight today. It's an hour, so we'll get started on things nice and early. As I said, I'm not comfortable in this thing, so we'll play everything way early, get set up for everything. The more prepared you are, the easier things are going to go. So I'll join you in a bit. Okay, so our cruise altitude was flight level 230, so that's in with the all-important alt cell. And I've set that. We're still climbing up. Passing flight level 100, so we can ditch the landing lights and the seatbelt sign. Go ahead and do that. And the rest is all just monitoring the instruments. Alright, so we've reached our cruise altitude of 230. We're over the English Channel, not that you can really see due to all the clouds, but there you go. On the ND we have our display and showing that we're crossing the English Channel. Let's talk about the approach. Winds are calm on the surface, but we do have a crosswind, of course, it's leads, at about 3,000 feet. It's showing 270-ish at 18, so that'll be interesting to deal with. But nevertheless, we've decided on runway 32 for our landing at Leeds. And we've got the LBA, which is the final fix for our flight plan, the LBA NDB, and we want to be level at 4,000. So we want to come out here on the 156 heading out of LBA up to 9 DME. And then we'll make that left turn onto a course of 320 to intercept the localizer and to our FAF, our ever-favorite FAF. We want to be at 4,000 over the field and down to 3,000 on the outbound leg to the FAF at 7.2 DME from the field. That's when we'll pick up the localizer. So 3,000 down to the FAF, pick up the localizer and the ILS, and we'll head down from there. We're a Category C aircraft on the approach. Cat 1, 852 is our mins. So we can go ahead and program that into the FMC. So we'll just go to menu, and we can go to arrive. Runway 32 is number 2. The EGNM is already in there from our flight plan. So number 2, there's no star. It's going to be the I32 ILS 3. That is number 1. We can go ahead and put that with the LBA transition. Insert that into the flight plan. So, if we go to our ND on plan mode, we will tighten it up a little bit. And LBA is there. We can head out on our heading. I forget what it was already. And then our crosswind leg. And then our final. Everything looks good. There's probably a discontinuity in there, which I'll have to get rid of in a bit. So we'll bring this back to, leave the range there. And VNAV. So VNAV from PPOS to. So we've got PPOS is our present position, and we want to head to LBA. So I'm going to look for LBA. That's 1717. Stick that in. And this middle one is the offset. So if I want it to be level before or after LBA, we want to be level at LBA. So I'm going to leave that blank, and we want to be at 4,000. Target vertical speed, the default is 1800. I've talked to a couple of real world pilots, and from what I know, I mean this could be false, they like to go a little bit faster down than that. The Dash 8 is pretty good in the descent. So we'll stick in 2000. Normally they go 22, even 2500, but whatever. The message is the VNAV disconnect. That is fine. So now we have an all-important distance to top of descent on the FMC. You can see that TOD 181. So it's 181 nautical miles to top of descent. And the other thing in our ND will be represented by a little circle and a TD. So if we go to the flight plan page and we scroll down a little further past Midhurst, over here to T-pole. Just before T-pole is our TOD, that little circle there. That's our top of descents. So we can actually stick VNAV on in the MCP and bring it down. We'll have to adjust the throttles back, of course. No auto throttle on the Dash 8 400. So that's the plan. We'll see how it works out. There's that no link in my FMS, and there's some clouds. Let's go ahead and bring the yoke back up, and we will program our nav radios. So we'll bring up the ARC-DO, and we'll select our ILS frequency, which is 110.9. And you can see that the VOR goes straight to an ILS when you program in the frequency. That's a nifty little thing just to make sure that you have the right frequency. So we'll plug that in both sides just for redundancy's sake. And we can plug in the ADF, the frequency for LBA, which is for something, I wrote it down here, 402.5. We'll plug that in on the left side. Plug that in on the right side. Now that we have the frequencies all set up, we do have to put the courses in. So the way to do that is you hold the format button. Instead of just pressing it to bring it back to the current page or the flight plan page, we will hold down the format page, and that brings up the course menu on our ND. So we can dial in the course. Our final heading for the ILS is 320. Go ahead and set that in. Scroll wheel. There we go. And we can do that on the captain's side in just a second. I will bring this back to the live ND. And we will go ahead over here onto the missing captain's side, and we will do the same thing. Hold down the format button and use his course knob to tune or to display rather 320 degrees. So that is set on both sides, and you can see we're actually picking up lateral guidance, but we'll ignore that for now.